So we are going to continue item number 9, take items 1 through 4 on consent.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
I know we have a presentation on item 5 that Mr. Labange was interested in. So we have a note and file on 6, but we probably should just go ahead and have a report on that. Okay. So, hi, Mr. Rosendahl. How are you? So, hopefully when one of our colleagues comes, we'll consent item 1 through 4. Item 9 is continued, and we're item number 6.
Item number 6 is a DOT report in response to a Parks Grow motion relative to the evaluation of the drive cam video system for the city's transit fleet.
Was continued.
Okay, then I'll just second that, right?
Yes.
So then the two of us are on record.
Two of us on record on 1 through 4 and continue in item number 9.
And number 9, when are we going to continue it to? Do you know?
I think it's probably going to be a couple weeks.
Okay. I just want to make sure that it is. I'm out of here on the 14th through the 26th.
Okay, so we'll try to make sure the time.
I definitely want to be here for that.
Okay. We'll make sure, and we might even have a special meeting because of the Access DC or something else, so we'll figure out a time that you're definitely there.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
Jim.
Good afternoon. Jim Lefton with the Department of Transportation. This report was generated in response to a motion by Council Members Parks and Gruhl, which directed the department to look into the drive cam system, which was being tested by MTA at one of its operating divisions, and to consider whether it makes sense to install this on the city's transit fleet. Real quickly, what the drive cam system is, it's a video recording system which is installed on the windshield of the transit vehicle, and it shoots out forward to what's happening in front of the bus, as well as shooting inside the vehicle, and also records both video and audio. And it's triggered whenever there's an incident, whether it's a hard braking or hard acceleration or an accident, a hard turn, and it records 10 seconds before and 10 seconds after the incident. And that information can be used by the operator to not only determine what happened at a particular incident, but can also be used as a tool for training drivers to help prevent accidents from happening in the future. MTA found that they were able to reduce their liability costs through the use of the system. Fast forwarding to today, basically I'm pleased to announce that in the next week or two, we'll have the drive cam system installed on our entire transit fleet, City Ride, Dash, Commuter Express, at no cost to the city. Our contractors have all looked into the system and felt that it's a useful tool in helping to operate the service more safely and help reduce their liability costs. So they installed it on our vehicles at no cost to the city. And in discussions with them, they feel it's a real valuable tool. So basically, it's
good news is
up and running.
you actually have done it, and it's working well, and
Yep.
and we didn't have to pay for it.
Correct.
How great is that?
That's good news.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Rosendahl or Mr. Labange have any questions on item number 6.
What I want to know is explain where it's mounted and what impact it has on the driver itself, and how does it make him a safer driver?
Well, basically, as I mentioned before, it's a camera, that's video camera that's installed on the windshield of the vehicle, and it shoots out in front of the bus as well as shooting inside the vehicle. And whenever there's an incident, a hard braking, a hard turn, a hard acceleration, an accident, it starts flashing red to let the driver know that it's recording. And basically, it records 10 seconds prior to the incident and 10 seconds after. And that information is downloaded and can be evaluated by the contractor and used not only to determine what happened at a particular incident, but also as a training tool, which they do use as a training tool just to work with the drivers and show them how to avoid these situations in the future. So it's been a real effective tool in preventing accidents and reducing liability costs. As I mentioned, our contractors have installed it on our entire city transit fleet at no cost to the city.
This 10 seconds before, this is intriguing. How does it have that prophetic ability? I mean, does something happen?
I believe it's recording constantly, and then it saves, when there's an incident, it saves the 10 seconds before and the 10 seconds after.
I see. And are other agencies around the country doing this already?
Yes, it's becoming much more widespread. My understanding is that MTA has it installed at one of its operating divisions, and I think possibly they'll be putting it on the orange line, but I think due to cost considerations, they haven't installed it fleet-wide yet, but hopefully, if they feel it's a useful tool, they'll be able to install it in the near future.
And how does this work with liability issues or also with union issues, or no issues with either of those groups?
There was, the MTA, when they first started installing it, had concerns about how the unions would react, so they worked closely with the unions, and they accepted it and had installed, and our contractors likewise have worked with the drivers and the unions, and everybody's on board that this makes sense. No, they're all in agreement this is a useful tool, and there aren't any labor issues involved with this at all.
Great, thank you so much.
Yes, Mr. Labange?
Question. Let's say someone wants to see the tape. Do they have any, like someone wants to see every letter I wrote, they write a Freedom of Information Act request. Is that, I just wanted to know if that, what's the public?
It's the contractor-owned equipment. I guess that information potentially could be
They're
used.
our contractor.
Correct.
You know how they have the True
I'd-
Patrol, and
yeah.
they have all these video reality shows? When you started talking about that and hard moves and what it makes, I thought, will anyone ever take this for any other use than what it's intended for?
I'd have to check. I can get back to you on that. I don't know whether that
Move
information is
forward,
there.
just get back to me, let me know, but check, just see, anybody watch True TV at all? Mr. Henry, you watch True TV? They have like police chases, they have everything, and I thought, I would imagine if they were smart, they'd try to look for other resources. Ms. Jackson, what TV do you watch? I got to wrestle my 10-year-old son for the clickers. He likes True TV. Okay.
I'll get back to you.
Thank you. I hope so, but you're a better woman than I.
So I think with that, we will note and file item number 6, and thank you. It's great, and its usefulness. Mr. Labange, 1 through 4, you're okay with consent?
okay with
And we'll
it. You're
continue
okay,
tonight?
Madam Chair.
Yes, we are.
We're continuing number 9.
And item number 7.
Did you want to go back to 5 or?
Any reason why?
We're not here. I don't know
We'll go to
why.
7 and then.
7. Item number 7 is City Attorney Report and Ordinance relative to amending the municipal code to authorize and establish a car share vehicle program in the City of LA.
Keith Pritzker, Deputy City Attorney. The California Legislature enacted Vehicle Code Section 22507.1 at the City of Los Angeles' request so that we could obtain authorization to establish a local car share program. This ordinance that's been drafted by the City Attorney's Office adds a new section to the Municipal Code 80.58.1, which would allow for such a program to be established in the City of Los Angeles.
Department, would you like to?
Good afternoon, Amir Sadati, Assistant General Manager. I'm here with Yadi Hashemi, who's my Senior Acting Engineer in charge of the permits program as well as the car sharing. We just want to give you a quick update as this report was really the legal ordinance, but we just want to give the committee an update of where we are. We've met with the only vendor that responded to our request, which is Zipcar. We've had multiple meetings, and as we had previously stated to the committee, there's 2 areas of the city that this pilot program is going to be launched. It's near UCLA campus and USC campuses, and we have provided approximately 10 parking spaces in each area. These parking spaces are not in a parking metered zone or any other gridlock zones or any other parking restrictions, so we're not affecting the public's and our revenues as far as parking meters. So we've worked diligently on getting this program launched, and I think we're very close to having an MOU signed with Zipcar. And I think, if anything I missed, Yadi, why don't you give them an update on maybe the start date?
Well, actually, the last meeting we had with the representatives from Zipcar, they indicated that they hope to see the very first cars parked in our dedicated spaces by summer. At this point, we have drafted an MOU, and we will be sending it back to Zipcar to get their agreement on it before we move on to the City Attorney's Office for approval.
So we're approving today the municipal car, the ordinance, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
We're approving the ordinance to make this happen, and then this summer, so before the actual school starts in those areas.
That's correct.
That's
Okay.
correct.
That's great. I'm very excited about this. I'm hoping it's going to take, I was at UCLA yesterday, I think, and, again, see the parking challenges that are there, so it would be helpful.
Interestingly, they already have a program within campus, and this would be the very first step to try and spread outside the
Outside
campus.
again.
And hopefully then, if it's a successful pilot program, after a one-year period, we can begin to take steps to spread it to other parts of the city, particularly transit stations where they could be very useful.
Great.
Or Venice Beach and other areas that Councilmember Rosendale's in.
You knew he was about ready to say that, wasn't you?
Right now, tell me, is anybody here from Zipcar?
No, not today.
Okay. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, and it can conceivably be a huge success. And I think the pilots in the university settings are fabulous, okay? Do we have to wait a whole year before maybe I could roll it out? Could we look at it in 3 months or 6 months and see if we can accelerate it to other locations?
I believe in our previous report, the committee had asked for us coming back before and giving routine reports. So I think the department can commit to providing maybe quarterly updates to this body, and then if there are decisions to go forward, then we can definitely do that. But
Because my hope would be if we could instruct them, Madam Chair, that you come back and quarterly, give us an update, and if we're excited and feeling everything's happening, I'd like then to expand it beyond that, like to Venice Beach. For instance, if we had it together for the summer, if possible, I know it's already March, April, May. Say theoretically, I could get something in June or July, 4th of July weekend, Venice Beach, that kind of thing.
just to add to that, Councilmember, we did ask for areas of Hollywood and Venice to be included. It's just right now the only company, Zipcar, that did bid, chose this business strategy approach of taking a little, smaller steps and trying it out in other areas where they felt there was a little bit successful before they launch into it. So the department didn't prohibit Venice Beach or areas of Hollywood to be considered. It's just it wasn't in their
Is Zipcar the
model.
only group out there really in this world, or are there others that a real RFP would be competitive, or are we just looking at them?
We did provide an a letter asking the 4 companies then to provide information, and that's the only company that bid. And actually, Zipcar merged with Carflex.
I see.
So they're the ones that are currently in San Francisco. They have operations in Washington, D.C. So that's the only company that LA, as of right now, has decided to work with this pilot program.
Okay, so then in 4 months, we could have a nice, good update, and we could see where we're going.
Sure. As a matter of fact, within the approved areas, USC and UCLA, there is a provision in our MOU that allows for the expansion of the program. Currently, we are providing you with 10 spaces at each location, but we can go up to 25 locations. And that's
Possibility to have somebody at the council when we go to the council level on this from that group?
From Zipcar, we can ask, definitely we can ask, Councilmember. and
That'd be nice.
if they can.
And I'd love, because the public will see it and all that, and it would be a good thing for them to do.
And we have a very great advocate in one of your staff members that's been
Yeah, that's fair.
has been great working with us on this, so we appreciate his efforts.
Yeah, and we're very excited to see you out.
Mr. LeBond or Mr. Parks, any questions on item 7?
What cities is this operating now?
San Francisco, as far as the West Coast is concerned, but they're in Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C., and a couple of other
Take the
cities.
car across the Golden Gate Bridge?
That I'm not aware of, but there is no limitation.
The Bay Bridge?
That's,
Does it just stay in the city of San Francisco?
they're required, at least our program would require that the vehicle be returned to the space where it was taken from, or the area where it was taken
What
from.
I'm saying is, how far could you flex a car?
At this point, all of those rules are within the company's rule, Councilmember. The only role DOT would have is to provide the on-street services or on-street spaces, put up the signage, but as far as who gets the car, what price they charge, where, how to reserve it, all of those rules would be the company's rule.
Wouldn't we want to, like, if we're getting into that kind of business, know those before we kind of encouraged it?
Well, it would be hard
We're trying
to,
to be green, but at the same time, I want to make sure we're clean.
And that's why it's a pilot program, so a lot of these issues would come up as far as going from one city to another. The main goal is to change behavior and hopefully change mode shifts, and people be able to use transit and other modes, and when they really have to have a second vehicle to do a short trip, for them to use this mode. So we can, in our next report back, we can provide some additional information on that.
San Francisco and seen it?
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it, Councilmember.
I see it in D.C.
I've not seen it.
I think someone should go see it. Just check out a car, drive up to 5, get there in about 5.5 hours.
Come back down to downtown? Okay.
Councilman,
Check it out.
yeah.
Come and pull it up there.
The key provision that makes this different at the present time and makes it somewhat green is that we have a requirement that the person that needs to utilize the vehicle would have no need to go anywhere else but to be able to check on their computer, sign up, go to the vehicle, punch in a number, and be able to use the car and bring it back there. Otherwise, it would be more like a, rental service. Now, after a 1-year period, we can reassess and perhaps come up with ideas that have to do with more green technology, require at least certain mileage as far as fuel efficiency is concerned.
Right.
This is just a test period.
Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Parks, Mr. Allison?
One thing, and it's just a matter of, maybe I'm not aware of all of the circumstances to implement, but I thought when we approved this in July that it would actually be operational in a short time, and it looks like 6 months later, we're approaching getting some of the things done, and all of them aren't completed. I'm just wondering what's been the delay in getting it done?
Part of the delay, Councilmember, was when we originally sent out the notice back in July, the two companies were merging, and we didn't get any response from the 4 companies we had sent, so we had to resend the letter after the provided time frame for them to respond back, to ask again for their information now that these 2 companies had merged. So there was a few months there during this whole merging process. And as the company formed itself and reorganized, we finally were able to get to the right person that was ready to start making this program happen within LADOT. And as you are all aware, and we're thankful that you were able to give us the additional bodies for within DOT to go through its own reorganization, and for us to be able to get the staffing necessary to start working diligently on these and other issues.
Now, did that delay us on, I think we're still looking to nail down the slots, the parking slots. Is that something that's been done?
It's been done. We have the 10 locations
At
with...
both schools?
Yes. And with USC and UCLA, we've worked with the affected council offices, and we're ready to basically finalize those locations, finalize the MOU, and again, launch the program.
So, let me get it clear. The slots would have been identified, but we've not nailed them down as permanent, or are we still negotiating, or what?
The slots have been located. I have a list of the addresses. I'll be glad, as a matter of fact, I've been planning on contacting your staff to discuss the details. But at this point, the Carflex, or I should say, well, the company we're dealing with, also has the list, and they are inspecting it to make sure that it's agreeable with them.
So they get the final say?
No, they can come back to us. We're providing them with some alternative locations near the shrine. We want to make sure that the locations we specify would not be subject to closures that have to do with events in the area. They're investigating that part. And there's still a few items that we need to deal with in our MOU, so that they're in possession of our MOU at this time, and they need to get back to us.
I may have missed this because I was late, but what do we now expect as a kickoff date? What are we talking about?
They've indicated early summer for the very first vehicles to roll on. Yeah.
Early summer is what, June? Is that what? It would be a year, I guess, since we gave approval.
I think as soon as we've got our parts done, Councilmember, then it becomes their operational program to put in place, have the vehicles ready, and have, the websites ready and all the other things that they need to do. But I think on our end, we can commit by early May to have all of our ducks in a row and have all of our approvals in place. And we'll definitely be working with your office to make sure USC is aware, and they are actually part of the team task force that's been created to be part of this program. So they have been involved, and I think we mentioned this before you came in, sir, that we're not taking metered spaces, we're not taking any spaces that are have peak hour restrictions or any other issues with gridlock or traffic congestion, that we are using parking spaces that are currently will have the least impact to revenues into the city.
And my final question is that, so as the direction we've given you before, then the next time we hear about this is the 180 days from May to tell us the progress? Is that what
Yes, that was, I think, what was requested by the committee, and we can commit to that and come back with an update report in 4 months. 4 months from the launch, or 3 months from the launch.
Okay, so if we talk about May, so you'd be sometime in 2000?
It'll still be this year. It'll still be this year.
So the end of this year?
Before the end of this year, we'll have definitely an update for you.
Okay, thank you.
Richard, any questions? Richard, any questions? Don't have to.
Yeah, it's just, I have to say, I'm a little skeptical. Only in that, I mean, I know we need to think creative. I'm just concerned that going in, we won't have sufficient participation, and would therefore be taking slots off the street that could be used by others. So that would be my one concern. But since it's just a demonstration and a modeling effort, I would only advise that you take a particular look at that concern and make sure that these slots are being used constantly. Otherwise, we're making our transportation problem worse.
Thank you for that, Councilmember. And we are taking this as you said, a demonstration project, and we've right now come to a conclusion of about 10 parking spaces for each area. And as Mr. Hashemi said, we have the flexibility based on demand and use to adjust that. So we do want to, make this a success, and that's why we think that we have that flexibility in the MOU.
Note and file.
I'd like to see if we could ask, one question on 6 and then ask for a direction.
Okay. So this will be item number 7 that we're going to act upon now. And colleagues, the recommendation is to approve the ordinance on item number 7. And for if Mr. Alacone and Mr. Parks would like to be on consent as voted on items 1 through 4, we'll add you to that. And we had noted and filed item number 6, but Mr. Parks has a quick
I just have one
question.
question. We have DOT.
You want to come back up, Jim?
I just wanted to verify, because I think you've dealt with this a couple of times. Is our understanding is that this drive cam will be a standard piece of equipment from now on? We won't be piecemealing it? So whenever we buy a bus, this will be a part of it?
Actually, as I mentioned earlier, before you got here, it has been installed on our entire fleet. It's just finishing up our Commuter Express fleet by the next week or so. It'll be on our entire fleet of City Ride, Dash, and Commuter Express. Our contractors have installed it on our fleet because they feel it's a useful tool in helping them to keep down accidents and reduce our liability costs. So there was no cost to the city whatsoever in installing it.
But I just want to make sure that in the future, if we get another vendor or something occurs on another contract, that be a part of our requirements, because it is a help thing too.
Yeah, we talked about, we've actually put that into the RFP as a requirement.
Okay. Then let me ask you a question that you probably don't have the answer for, but one of the things we keep getting a lot of liability claims is dealing with street services and trash trucks and rubbish trucks. Would this equipment be something that is compatible for that type operation, or is there a different type of equipment as it relates to, I guess the cab would be more confined than everything else, but I just wanted to know whether...
You're asking whether it could be used on a trash truck?
Yeah.
I believe it can be used on any type of vehicle. It's used on our smallest city ride vehicles all the way up to our 40-foot Commuter Express buses, so I don't think there's any limitation on how it can be used. It's triggered by a sharp braking or acceleration or accident or turning, so that could be true on any vehicle.
Let me just take that point, and would you talk to Public Works, and Chair of Public Works, because I would love to see a discussion with them, and then tell them I want them to report back to the Chair, because this is a brilliant idea, Mr. Parks.
Okay.
Because we're just going to ask the CLA to do that for us.
Perfect.
Because I think that's our number one traffic accident.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we will reconsider that item and add that as an action on the item. Thank you. That'll be approved. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is the CLA communication relative to a report from Caltrans regarding information.
Question on the last one there. just 'cause
Which one?
Well, on the trash truck issue there. Do you think there's more trash truck accidents with the mechanical trucks than there were with the two-person trucks?
I have no way to judge that. I just know that on liability,
Yep.
it's massive.
Yeah.
And then when you evaluate the liability, you find there are few rubbish truck operators that are not averaging at least one accident per year of operation.
But do we need to improve the driving school for them?
I think
know
they go-
it's a very big truck. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a very big truck.
I think it might be driven just by the higher
Magnitude.
cost of liability in general.
But the number,
What I understand about those vehicles is that the incidence of work-related injuries is dramatically down, but these are accidents.
yeah.
Right, I know that a man or woman is not getting hurt hauling trash off the back.
Right.
But because the mechanical, may I, Mr. Rosendahl?
You may do whatever you want,
This-
Tommy.
This arm and that big truck and the visibility is a challenge, so if
No.
it's that, I mean, I hear you, I see them on all of the cities, so I'll pay attention to it a little bit more, but we should have a special, a meeting if it's that great, because I think we put the drivers at harm, we put the public at harm if this is a constant.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've had a couple of things. One, they changed the mirrors up front. Or was that with the
Yes.
buses? They did the mirrors or something because people were in front of it and you couldn't see them. And then, but you find on the litigation, even though many of them are minor, they rake a mirror off, they, things of that nature, they're averaging about one accident per year. But what you find when you look at the accidents, the same level of inattentiveness is causing major and minor accidents. So if they're not paying attention and losing a mirror, the next time they're not paying attention, somebody may be more seriously injured. But we're just trying to figure out whether this equipment would be helpful for them, because often you have no other information about a traffic collision other than what the person is saying they're doing within the cab, and the person who gets hit says, you know, I got hit, but
I think, because I know it's such a big moving machine.
yeah, it is.
With just one operator, it's not like you have flag people around like a paving machine. Maybe, Mr. Chair of Public Works should do a field test, something, a meeting. on
I
it.
just think the CLA can look into that, and obviously, if it has applications, we certainly want.
Got it, that's all, yeah, I've got that. Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me.
You're welcome. You're
Call
welcome.
that back.
Okay. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is the CLA communication relative to a report from Caltrans regarding information on the condition of the freeway system in Los Angeles. There's a cover memo from the CLA, but it's really the report from Caltrans responding to a discussion that we had in committee and a motion that was introduced by Councilmember Perry on looking at the conditions of the freeways in Los Angeles.
You're not from Caltrans.
No, council member. Greg Fisher, Office of Councilman Jan Perry. The Department of Transportation, State of California, has presented to you, I believe you have copies of it, a very thorough and thoughtful discussion of the condition of freeways in the city of Los Angeles. If you look through the various charts, you will note that District 7, within which the city and county of Los Angeles fall. Division 7, sorry. Shows that
Number 8.
shows that District 7 scores at the bottom or the top in terms of failure on almost any level that you can find. It's actually kind of appalling. Their candor is very much appreciated, and their frank discussion of why is very interesting. I think that in order for us to get anywhere with this, it seems to me to be clear that we need to separate District 7 in such a way that the County of Los Angeles is its own standalone. It needs more help. It has a more aged infrastructure. It has more service miles. It has more of everything. And to have Ventura County still with it, when Orange, which used to be part of District 7, was taken off and made its own district, which is now District 12, seems to be almost a failure, not built in, probably maybe some oversight. But we need to get our own issues resolved, and I think the only way we're going to get those done is if we are our own district.
And what would we do to create that own district? What is it that we can?
I discussed it briefly with the CLA, and I think we'll look for some sort of a resolution or motion to see what we can do to get this thing furthered.
Well, we should ask the state representative, but they're not going to create anything with this budget crisis right now.
Well,
But I think
yeah.
you asked the...
We should begin the dialogue because it's going to take them a long
Oh,
time
yes,
to do
this
this.
is not going to
It's
happen overnight. The
it's not-
councilman's right, it's
Before
a
we
difficult time to
Before we
ask.
even talk about that, we should ask, do we gain revenue or lose revenue?
Well, I'm trying to take it from a point of view of practicality. It's an issue whereby we don't have the resources we need, some of which are now devoted to Ventura County, and we need to have another discussion about how we get those resources. We will have to see how to divide it out.
True. I don't know that that's true. What this analysis does not say is how much revenue is generated in Ventura and how much money they expend versus how much money is generated in LA and how much money is expended here.
True, Councilman.
So the first question I have is, would we gain revenue in LA City or lose revenue?
We could have to ask that question as part of our solution. I don't have the answer to that.
Because they're two distinct issues. And the issue of the revenue formulas for the districts of Caltrans is an entirely different question than geographic consideration. So
You, having sat in the State Assembly, would know that much better than I. And I appreciate the question. It's, I think, one of several that we need to ask. How do you get there from here?
let me put it to you another way.
Okay.
After we sliced off Orange County, I didn't see a noticeable difference in Los Angeles, but Orange County is looking pretty good.
That's my point. Well, and I see you're making the opposite point.
Yeah, so
It's an interesting point to look at.
Ventura may benefit by taking it out.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see what we would get out of it. I'm hoping that we can get the legislature to see that since we score so badly as a group, that maybe we need some isolation, some like tutoring, some special care, and that having us grouped with Ventura County is not helping our situation at all.
What's Doug Faley think?
Is Caltrans here?
They just walked in.
Oh.
Hey, come on in, Caltrans. You can take the center table. Sergeant, swear him in, will you? Why don't you give them an update where we are? Yes, they just walked in. They don't know where we are.
Oh, okay.
Are these great Caltrans people?
Yes.
Terrific.
What we were talking about is the report that Caltrans provided and the discussion as to whether or not it made sense to really have Los Angeles County be its own district in some ways, that the breadth of your coverage, both here in Ventura County, and the amount of areas you have to cover that oftentimes you don't get as much money for the area that you cover, and whether or not it would be beneficial to have LA County have their own and Ventura County have their own district, and what that would mean. And so we were having a little bit about that debate, what it would mean financially for us, and whether or not that would help or hurt us in going further. Is that accurate?
Very
Okay.
good. Thank you, Councilman.
I think if they split the resources...
Your name for the record?
I'm sorry. My name is Dan Freeman. I'm the Deputy District Director for Maintenance for Caltrans District 7, which is, as you just said, Los Angeles and Ventura counties. As long as I got the same resources to devote to Los Angeles County that I now get for both, it would be beneficial. If I had to split the resources as I do now, and the Ventura County resources went to wherever Ventura County wound up, I'm not sure it would make a whole lot of difference.
If I could ask a question, Dan, we were talking about Caltrans last night at the West Side Village Homeowners Association. As we talk in the 11th District about Caltrans all the time, we've held joint meetings with Caltrans, and every 6 months we're having updates on about 9 projects in my district. So whatever we can do to give us a more focused opportunity with Caltrans, the happier my constituents are. We suffered for 3 years at the Palms and the 405 interchange. We're still right now suffering on National Boulevard and the interchange there. But it requires DWP, DOT, and Caltrans to always be joined at the hip, and MTA as well. So whatever we can do to tighten it up and not spread out, because that's why Ventura County is a problem for us. I actually would like to have a separate one just for LA City, if we can conceivably do it. Is there any discussions about possibly breaking down the divisions? I mean, Doug Failing's great, and so are you, but any conversations going on about it?
Not that I'm aware of. No, we haven't had that particular conversation. Most of the conversations that we have, we're trying to get more resources devoted to District 7, both counties, as we can. And that's kind of a constant thing.
We're not getting dollar-for-dollar share return of what we contribute?
Well, I haven't looked at it on a dollar-per-dollar basis. I look at it generally from a population basis. I try and point out that what our population here is in the 2 counties compared to the resources that we get statewide. There's a bit of a disconnect there. The other thing that I point out a lot is about miles traveled. We travel 100 million miles every single day on the freeway system here in the 2 counties. There's no place in the state that has that kind of density, and that beats up the roads pretty bad, and I think we need resources commensurate with that. I don't think on a statewide basis there's a recognition of that. So I make that argument a lot, but not the dollar-for-dollar one.
Anyone else? Mr. LaBonge?
Well, just to ask you, who's Santa Barbara County with? What division?
Well, that's District 5.
District 5. It goes from Santa Barbara to what?
That goes up the coast, I think, all the way up to Santa Cruz.
And do you think that the reason why Ventura County is tied into Los Angeles County is because in northern Los Angeles County and eastern Ventura County we integrate with the 23 and the 18 and some of the freeway systems, really a Los Angeles freeway system if you looked at it?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's fair to say. Have they ever, sitting around the water cooler or whatever you have over there, do they ever talk about how to make things better in Caltrans? And do they talk about busting up this district?
No, I haven't heard talk about busting up the district. We talk about trying to make things better all the time. I mean, we try to strive for continuous improvement.
Right.
A lot of it's related to resources. We don't feel like we get enough resources to do the job that really needs to be done here. We have an aging system. The freeway system was developed here. We've got an older system than any place else in the state.
You got the biggest
greater
system.
Needs for replacement.
How many miles of freeway in Los Angeles?
I would equate this to Jack Foley's work in Recreation and Parks, where he talked about the inner city needing more resources because they had more rehabilitation work that was necessary.
Right.
Very similar. What he is saying is that if they have a peanut butter approach to solving the problems, they're not going to be able to have the same impact on Los Angeles because the density that we have causes more maintenance.
Well,
yeah, it's more difficult to maintain because of that. We have challenges that other areas of the state don't have.
So the problem is at how the state divvies up the money. And what he is saying is that he has argued internally that there should be sort of a density bonus, and we don't have anything like that. So that's my concern. If you just divide up the districts, you're not really increasing the resources necessarily. In fact, you may be reducing them for both sides by adding administration. So I'd have some concern about that. In fact, I know that's what the governor is going to say right out the gate. What I'd be more concerned with is how do we stand up to support your density notion and argue that areas of X amount of density require additional maintenance on highways, and therefore they should get a higher proportion of the dollars.
Well, I think we need to have that discussion with, our elected state representatives, for one.
Right
I mean,
on
I
the
think
mark.
that would be an assist. We have that discussion internally, and it's not, I haven't seen a lot of traction on it recently, but it's not ignored. I mean, I think there is some.
I appreciate your candor.
We're going through a process where we're revising the budget model statewide, our headquarters group is. And I think there is going to be some adjustment to include a density factor, as I was discussing. Now, I haven't seen how that's going to change the resources that I have available to do the work that needs to be done, but.
Thank you.
It's worth a discussion. That's why I called for a city committee, right? What was the committee, Maria? For freeway advocacy? But still, 85% of the people still travel by freeway.
That's right.
And no one has the voice. When I sat on the MTA board, I was disappointed there was no champion other than Doug Phelan for roadways. There's nobody everybody's sticking up still for public transit, which is very important, but still 85% of the people. And if we dealt with choke points, whatever. Have you ever been to the top of this building ever?
Yes.
Have you seen your building from the top and how pretty it looks?
Yeah.
But okay, I was just going to say, if you wanted to go up there for 5 minutes, this meeting's going to be over. I'd like to continue the discussion about some of this if you got 5 minutes.
Oh, sure,
Okay,
absolutely,
good.
I do.
So we're going to take this and just receive and file it, I think is what it is. Mr. Fisher, it's an idea that is good for forever. It could be good forever, but I think Mr. Alarcon, who has this state senator maximum background and a short time at the assembly, but the state issue is where's the money and how it comes from. So we're going to recommend this be received and filed, all righty?
Yeah, and give Doug Phelan my regards. I think he's a great guy doing a great job.
Absolutely, and so do I.
Yeah. How's the 405 doing? When's that going to be done?
Coming up soon.
Yeah.
Had bid opening
The
last
west side.
The 101.
Yeah, that's good. No, 405 down your way in Mar Vista
Yeah, well,
area.
that happens to be the Diamond Lane there.
Yeah, okay,
Carpool Lane. You're almost done there.
Hang around for a few minutes. Thank you so much. Madam Clerk, what's before us right now?
One more.
Receive and file this one. Now we got number 5. Item 5.
Item number 5 is the Labange rule motion relative to the request to have the California High-Speed Rail Authority provide a status report on California's high-speed train system.
Great. Is anyone here for that? Lupe. You're going to speak to it, but they're not here yet. This is just to request that the authority come to us. So we want to hear from the authority at some future date, maybe with 1 or 2 items on committee. Does that sound good?
Yeah, and this was also referred to the Ad hoc River Committee as well.
Great, good. But I think it should help with transportation first and get a briefing. Maybe there'll be a joint meeting at the same time because some of us had the same. Lupe, you want to...
Lupe Vela, Policy Director for the Ad hoc River Committee. I'm just going to read a letter from the council member, Chair of the Ad hoc River Committee. Honorable members of the Transportation Committee, I fully support the development of high-speed rail in California, and in particular through Southern California. With the recent funding windows open, it is now facing amazing opportunities and challenges. One of those challenges is the need to evaluate and come to some consensus on the route from Burbank to Union Station. Over several months, Council District 1 and 14 and various community advocates have submitted comments and requests for alternative opportunities and have not received adequate responses to funding, timelines, and alternative route proposals and/or engineering options. I'd like the committee to consider the following recommendations: that Transportation Committee work with Ad hoc River Committee to support the high-speed rail system for the benefit of all of our communities and to support alternative routes that do not burden and significantly impact low-income communities. That the 2 committees work together with the recently initiated City Department Task Force on High-Speed Rail to represent the goals of the city and to speak with one voice on this issue. Thank you for providing the opportunity to speak before the committee, Councilman Ed Reyes.
Yeah, do you have a suggested, we know that for 100 years, Southern Pacific lines come through the San Fernando Valley, through Glassell Park, through Cypress Park, through parts of Lincoln Heights, into what is Union Station now. Do you have a suggested route?
There's been letters submitted suggesting alternative routes, even considering underground.
Right.
The council member or the city have not really received any cost information on those different scenarios. So that's what we're really looking for, cost information, timelines,
Right.
to see what might be some possibilities. To have another rail line go through the Cypress Park community, the Taylor Yard, cornfields, William Mead, is a very difficult thing to take, and there hasn't been enough information and discussion of alternative routes.
Right.
So-
Members, just to let you know, on my travels through our sister city of Berlin, Bernard's favorite European city, is that their new reunification, they actually, could you imagine being in Burbank and you're in East Berlin, really, and you go underneath, because high-speed rail is so fast, underneath the ground, to the distance of what it would be central Los Angeles. That's what I would hope we would share at some points. They're absolutely grade separated. And look at it. I just don't know how we get from that San Fernando Road configuration to another point other than San Fernando Road. So it has to be below grade and try to create park space on top, as they do in European cities in the fashion. So I think we'll welcome that discussion. So at that time, I'll suggest to Ms. Gruhl, whatever it is, we could have a joint committee so that we could all hear it at once.
Okay.
On an item, but I think it's important. Thank you for bringing that, Lupe. Okay. That's item number 5, correct? Okay, item number 10.
Item number 10 is the joint reports from the DOT, Disability and Aging in response to a Gruhl-Labange motion relative to the adequacy of transportation services for individuals with disabilities.
Good. You want to take public comment, Mr. Sachs? I'm committee chair, and then when it's 3 o'clock, I go 1 minute public comment. Can you handle that? You can handle it? All right, if you need more, we'll let you know. Okay, hit it for 1 minute.
Okay, good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. This report is a sham regarding access services. You have a review for passenger standards, you have a review for order takers, code of conduct, eligibility. You differentiate between access paratransit and access services. Access paratransit is the vehicles that are used mainly for wheelchair operation. Access services vehicles could be taxi cabs, could be any vehicle that does not require somebody in a wheelchair. The difference being is the wheelchair service vehicles are usually driven by employees of a company because they need to know where they are at all times because they have a definite set route and schedule. The other access service vehicles are usually driven by subcontractors. Subcontractors, basically by their definition, don't work for the company, so they're not necessarily available for access services. You have an audit, no funding. You have a code of conduct distributed to all certified drivers. How about having a code of conduct posted in all access certified vehicles?
I think that makes sense. Hold on to the time here, because I'll give you more time after the department makes their report. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. We're going to have the department here report. It's the way we do it, but I'll give you that extra time later.
Good afternoon. My name is John Fong with the Department of Transportation. I have with me to my left James Don, Assistant General Manager for the Department of Aging, and to my right, Adriana Miranda with the Department on Disability. And in the audience, we have the General Manager and staff of Access Services Incorporated. In this report, the committee had asked that we study the adequacy of transportation for individuals with disabilities in the city of Los Angeles. And for the City Ride program, we are providing subsidies that provide over 13 million bus trips a year, 800,000 dollar ride trips a year, and approximately 200,000 taxi trips a year. We have very few complaints, although we do get about 60 complaints a year, but we are able to resolve them. Concerns regarding the Access Services program were raised at various meetings of the public, And the mayor had called for an audit of access services, and had asked the Metro's Office of the Inspector General to produce that audit. The audit report was produced, and it had no findings, but it had 16 recommendations to improve service. Out of the 16 recommendations, 12 have been implemented and are continuing. 2 will be implemented next month, and the remaining 2 will be implemented in the near future. We have met with the Department of Aging, the Department on Disability, and Access Services. We have met several times, and we will continue meeting to resolve any complaints. We actually have one scheduled for next month to resolve any issues, and we believe that is the approach that we have taken to resolve any issues for the future.
Let me hear from James, because he's responsible for the aging.
I concur with what John from DOT is saying. We do agree that to ensure that access services continue on the right path of being responsive, that with our assistance and in consultation with us on a regular basis, we could improve their customer service overall. Each one of us have our own specialties and our own advocacy for certain segments of the customer base.
What about the posting of the various rules and regulations in the vehicle?
I would think that would be a good idea.
James, good.
I want to be sure, though, that font size is large enough so that it's
people
easily
could see
read. I'm sure DOT would have some concerns about people who are of limited sight, Braille, or something along those lines.
So we're on the right track. Disability.
Yes. Yes, Councilmember, we concur also, and as John mentioned, we will have a meeting as early as next week. Next Tuesday, we have our first meeting. We're very glad that most of the recommendations are already completed, and we hope that this, our COD and DOD will continue to monitor the services, and would like to come back and report if there are any concerns.
Great. Mr. Sachs?
A few other things, just thank you very much. Suppose you're on dialysis and you're an access passenger. Costs you have to take a 10-mile round trip in a taxi because you don't need a paratransit vehicle. 10 miles will cost you $3.60. It's $1.80 each way. Suppose you have the opportunity, you have to complain. Would you be willing to give up your access services because you complain more often than was within the access service provider's standards, and they decided they wanted to drop you? Would you be willing to pay $75 for those same 3 trips because that's what you'd pay by taking a taxi? Today, $23, $2.30 a mile, $23 plus getting in the cab. So you are hamstrung as a rider because you need the service. You have to go for dialysis. So the number of complaints isn't an issue. It's the ability to have the opportunity to back up your complaints. When you, speaking as an access driver, because I did this, Access Services has a computer printout. They can post the driver anywhere they want. They can post them on site. They can post them as a late. They can do that. What you got as the public? You got anything to back that up? You got anything to back up that the driver was there, the driver wasn't there, the driver was late?
How many times have you witnessed that?
How many hands you got on the? More times than all.
Were you the driver?
Yeah.
So you were late?
I was late. I was told to post up on the spots, and I said, you know what? The company has a policy that if you post illegally, you'll be terminated. So I didn't do it. I also know that they have.
Let me just ask, John, would you talk to Mr. Sachs afterwards?
They have vehicles that are certified access, but the drivers aren't, which is also a contributing factor to the overload. Because if you have 100 cars and you only have 10 drivers, only the drivers that are certified are going to get the access calls. And you could be out there saying, boy, all those access, there's no access vehicles in your repair shop.
Right, in the fleet.
Everybody's out on the road, but not everybody's an access service certified driver.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs, for your comments. John, I want you to have a conversation with the gentleman afterwards.
I'll do that.
Members, the recommendation for the CLA is to receive and file. Ask Mr. Rosendahl to move, Mr. Parks to second. That is complete. Any other items before us?
There's public comment.
Okay, this is public comment period. Raise your hand if you want to make a public comment. All right. Anybody who doesn't want to hear the public comment is free to go. I will be here to listen to public comment. Okay. Thank you. You can run the clock, please.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs, public comment. I really appreciate the fact that you're looking into a audit of the costs associated with the dash bus that was running, the midnight dash service that was running downtown. The cost was $23,000 for the 3 buses for 6 hours. Figure that out over a, let's say, 18-hour day. That comes to $69,000 for dash operations for 3 buses. That's a lot of money for running dash buses, don't you think? I'd like to know where the costs come from. And then I'd like to read, this is a motion that was put forth in the county by Council Supervisor, or County Supervisor Kanabe. It has come to my attention during this past weekend that the Office of the City Attorney General released the consumer alert notifying the public that companies using official sounding names seek to scam homeowners who are worried about their property taxes. I'm not concerned about the homeowners and the property taxes. I'm concerned about authorized taxi cab supervision at the airport having a city seal on their uniform when they're not a city agency, they're not affiliated with the city, and it says authorized.
Hey, Mr. Sachs, thank you. Ms. Schechter, I want you to talk to Mr. Sachs. He has anything. Thank you very much. Mr. Sachs, my deputy there will listen to your complaint if you want some follow-up, and get your phone number so we can call you. Any other public comment? This meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.